Hello and welcome to another episode of Bravo Outsider. I'm your host, Craig Midwinter. Joining me as usual is Dylan Ferguson. Dylan, how's it going?
Pretty good. Kind of like last week. I'm sunburnt and dazed and jamming, just jiving.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. This week, we're very excited to be joined by a guest who runs an account that is so essential to the Bravo fan ecosystem. I don't know how we would have gotten through Scandal without it. It's Lyndsay Lime of Vanderpod Recaps.
When life gives you lemons, throw in a lime.
Excellent. That is great.
Thank you.
What was your inspiration for the tagline?
Well, my last name is Lime, so I figured,
right.
Yeah, you know.
It's really good, actually. I love
Thanks.
it. Every time there's a new season that starts, we always do like a power ranking, and that would rank very high in our power rankings on the tagline.
Probably A level, yeah.
Man.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the account that you run?
Yeah, so my name's Lyndsay, and I first started on Reddit where I would, when Scandal broke, I would recap all the podcasts that were coming out. I then started my Instagram account, which is Vanderpod Recaps. And over there, you can see all my recaps. And I started to dabble into Housewives stuff and other Bravo shows as well. But I pretty much just listen to podcasts that either the cast have or people talking about it, and I just pretty much transcribe it. I paraphrase it, or I put verbatim what they're saying, because sometimes they say the most wild things and I'm like, this is really what they're saying. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about the account and everything.
Awesome. And so you cover Vanderpump Rules mostly on your account. Do you watch a lot of Housewives as well, or is this sort of something new that you're getting into?
So I definitely have been watching Vanderpump from the beginning. The Housewives, I've dabbled into all of them. Actually, it's funny, the Orange County episode that we're talking about, I have not watched any of Orange County except for like half of the first season, the very first season. So this was kind of funny for this to be like the first episode I watched. And then,
oh yeah, for sure,
I've seen a little bit of old RHONY. I've been keeping up with the new one. I've basically like all the franchises of Housewives. I've seen like here and there. Beverly Hills, I think I got to season 9. Then after all the dog stuff, I was like, I need a break.
Yeah, I think everyone did.
I think, right? And then like other shows, again, like Summer House, I've seen a little bit. I started Southern Charm. So I've dabbled into a little bit all of them, but the Vanderpump is the one that I've seen like every single episode multiple times.
Do you have any like Bravo hot takes or controversial opinions that you want to share?
Let's get right to it, right, Craig? Just catch the beach.
Let me think. I mean, I kind of am already over season 11 of Vanderpump, and it hasn't even started. I think just because I'm burnt out from Scandal, and then we've seen so many pictures already of season 11, and like I'm not really looking forward to this like crossover they're doing with like Vanderpump Valley. I'm already annoyed that Jax is like back on the screen. I don't think that's really a hot take. I think people are, I don't know, some people with Jax, he can make great TV, but I'm already annoyed. And then I think, the Bethany and Rachel interview, I think my takes on that is I feel more, I think I went harder on Bethany than Rachel. Like I feel like Bethany kind of did her dirty with that interview. I still would like to hear more from Rachel, but I don't think we're going to get that. I wish she would have done that interview like a year from now, and maybe there would have been more growth, but I don't know.
Another thing that I was curious as to what your perspective was. I know that, like, I think it was mentioned in the Rachel and Bethany interview about how Vanderpump Rules was going to be canceled after season 10, which is something that we kind of thought was the case while we were watching the season, especially after watching what was supposed to be the finale, the way they had Lisa Vanderpump giving her speech at the end, it felt really like they were trying to wrap things up. And then Ariana, I think it was on Sheena's podcast maybe, where she said that that wasn't the case. I'm curious what your takeaway was on that.
I mean, I personally really think that season 10 was going to be the last, because I believe even the huge, so take Scandal out of it, the huge thing was supposed to be Rachel and like Schwartz kissing, right? But that already leaked, I believe, before the season even started. So like people were just kind of waiting to see how that played out. But like really, if you look at that and then Sheena's wedding, there really wasn't much that happened season 10. So I can't imagine it would have been continuing if Scandal didn't happen. I don't think Rachel or Ariana are really wrong with how they said it, because I think Alex Baskin in his interview, kind of the way he worded it, I think you could take it either way, as far as like season 10 be the end, or like they were so lucky to get a season 10 after like the pandemic and everything. So, but personally, I thought season 10 was going to be the last season if Scandal hadn't happened.
Yeah, and it might even end up ultimately feeling like the canon last season. If season 11 is as lackluster as I think a lot of people are kind of anticipating it is, you know, it's kind of like after a big like endorphin rush, how you've got your kind of Blue Monday, and I feel like we'll have a similar experience with the next season of Vanderpump Rules. But Vanderpump Rules could prove me wrong. I was wrong when I called it before.
We did think season 10 was going to be boring, right? So
yeah, we weren't even going to start covering it.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But yeah, it ended up being a fantastic season, and I do think that, you know, even if you take away the Scandal, I still think that it was a fantastic season of television in general. I think that the arc that we got for Rachel over the course of that season was really interesting and like engaging. And, you know, even more so given the Scandal of it all. So I think it stands on its own as a fantastic piece of television and totally worthy of the Emmy nominations that it's getting. I really hope it lands those.
I do too. That would be awesome.
Awesome. So let's get into our recaps. We're going to cover Real Housewives of Orange County and Real Housewives of New York. Were either of these more engaging for you? And which one would you like to talk about first?
I'm cool with that. Whatever. I think I was more engaged with RHONY, but that may be just because, like I said, this was my first episode seeing of Orange County, but I liked the RHONY episode.
Awesome. Yeah, let's start with New York. I thought with both franchises we were eating really good this week. I really enjoyed both of these episodes. RHONY especially, I thought it was a great follow-up to what we saw last week with Erin and Abe's party. Do you want to let us know what your highlights were from this episode?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed almost every scene. So I really liked Jessel and her mom talking at lunch. I thought that was a really sweet scene, because I know Jessel was really nervous to talk to her mom, but her mom seemed very understanding. I liked when Jenna was doing like the casting for her lashes. She made a really interesting comment, like Sai did, about how like Jenna seems to be more open with stranger than her friends. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't surprise me, because y'all seem like you hate each other. Like that end scene, I get this vibe that they just like, I don't know. I just don't think they like each other. And it's interesting because listening to podcasts, Erin, before the season premiered, talked a lot about how like she considered Sai one of her best friends. But then recently on a podcast, she was like, well, I thought that, but the way that Sai talks to me about in her interviews, you wouldn't think we were friends. So it's just interesting. And then I thought the end, like the whole like group scene with the Christmas stuff was really interesting. Because again, we have Sai who's always hungry, but the food's never good enough. And then them kind of like taking digs at like Jenna bringing presents and then Erin just leaving. I mean, overall, really every scene I thought was like pretty good this episode.
Yeah, totally. Like you mentioned the comment about Erin made after watching the confessionals and seeing how Sai talked about her. I feel like that I'm getting the sense just watching this season, that's just how Erin kind of operates. Like whoever is the last person to say something negative about her that she has heard, it's like, oh, I don't like you now. And then someone else just says something, and then she's like, oh, wait, no, now I don't like you. And she's just really taking her aim at whoever is the last person to say something negative about whatever she's doing. She takes things very, yeah, exactly. Dylan, what were your highlights from New York?
I really love Jenna's willingness to say the most fucking embarrassing things about herself. It's just one of her many adorable qualities. We didn't get a ton of Jenna in that episode, but I do love that. And as to her like being more willing to be open with strangers than like friends, like that's a thing sometimes. Like sometimes it's easier to just like to like unburden something really embarrassing at a person you're never going to see again, rather than to somebody you have a long-standing relationship with. Sometimes it just makes sense. I was glad to hear an Octomom reference because I haven't heard one of those in like a decade. So I don't know, put a little smile on my face. I kind of like Brynn in this episode. I think that when you tell a joke, I think sometimes you just gotta like judge it by how your audience reacts, by how it lands. And I thought like I said last time, Brynn's like very direct and obvious fake flirting with every male in her vicinity is like, it isn't that hilarious on its own, and it wasn't necessarily that funny at Erin's party, but the fact that Erin got really pissed off at it, now it's hilarious.
Yeah, totally. I really love the scene that we got with Erin and Abe, where Abe kind of lets this out, and like he realizes partway through that he's let the genie out of the bottle, and that now this is a thing that Erin is mad about, and he's trying to like put it back in. He's like, well, actually it was kind of funny. And she's like, no, why do you think this is funny? This is abhorrent.
Yeah.
And especially notable was when she was like, oh, what if our children heard? Like, think of the children. And then immediately after she says something to the effect of like, how was it funny when she was joking that you should be fucking around while she's got her kid on them? Like, you're really that concerned about your kid hearing?
The children are literally like next to her, like when she's talking, and they're talking and they hear a sound, and she's like, oh, was that a child? It's like, don't pretend you're upset that a child might have heard somebody else saying something slightly flirtatious.
I mean, her kids were literally in the car when she called her husband that one episode and asked about
right.
about fucking someone in the senator's office. So like I think these kids have heard some things.
Yeah. Oh, another Jenna moment I liked was when she delivers a really backhanded compliment to Sai's outfit when she walks into the wreath making party, and she's like, I just love somebody who's just completely overdressed. And because if everybody was always just like normal and perfect and like had good fashion sense, like how much more boring would the world be? Really, really great work at giving a backhanded compliment. The Christmas party outfits were like fucking insane though. Which, I mean, to their credit, I guess. Like I don't know what size top was. She looked like if you like hacked away at the abominable snowman and revealed that he was made out of geodes or something. And then Brynn's dressed like the Philly fanatic, and Jessel walks in dressed as Gritty. It's just a mascot party. But really fun stuff. Yeah,
I thought that when Erin came in on that scene, the editors did such a fantastic job of capturing the energy. Like I felt all the air get sucked out of the room as soon as she came in, and it was like such a funny whirlwind because she came in and she's like, I'm gonna ruin this party, and then she only got herself worked up and like stormed out. It's like she barely made an impact on
she storms out, and I forgot who it was, but somebody's like, is anybody gonna go after her? And they're like, nah.
Sai was like, nah, I'm good. I thought it was funny when Erin was like, Sai said something sarcastic, and Erin was like, okay, well, thank you. And Brynn was like, thank you. Because Brynn was like, oh, this is my moment. to get into this.
Yeah.
And then Erin was like, oh no, I'm not talking to you. You did something horrendous. She literally used the word horrendous. I was like, whoa.
I do appreciate how Sai like really just digs her heels in and sticks up for herself and refuses to apologize. That was kind of charming to me. She maybe does have a tapeworm though. I think her eating thing is
yes. She needs to get her sugar
problematic.
checked or something.
Yeah. I do miss Uba though. I'm waiting for Uba to come back because I do miss her weirdo ethereal energy. We need that back in the mix.
I think it was Jenna was like, it feels like it's been 3 weeks since I've seen Uba, and it feels like longer to me. Like we need her back.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Another thing I really loved about this scene was like when Erin left, she called her sister, and we got like that that call where she was like, oh, I told you she's fucking rude, she's such a bitch, like she's wearing sunglasses, like, honey, you're not a celebrity. Like this girl's like digging so hard to try to like carve out a moment for herself. She was doing it at the party by like going up and like trying to scold them, and then it's like doing it now. It is so thirsty. Like Erin has to put a leash on this woman. She is like,
it's so funny at the party when they're just like chatting and she shows up. It's like, you guys are arguing during their vows. Like, no, we're not. Nobody's arguing. You just saw us talking with a camera on us and wanted to barge in and get on camera.
Yeah, she obviously just saw them talking because they weren't even, I don't even remember what they were talking about wasn't important, but she was like, oh, this is my moment.
Yeah, totally. And then immediately after, like Erin's parents came up and was like trying to introduce themselves, and it was the perfect moment for them to be like, oh no, actually we were just scolded, and completely make a fool of her sister. Dylan, did you have any other highlights from New York?
I just want to say it is really interesting kind of how like since and when they find out that Jenna's name isn't really Jenna. And it is weird how when you find out that like somebody used to have a different name or has a name, it like seems to change something, even though it changes nothing. Like a name is such an empty vessel, but it's so weird how we like fill it with meaning. And I just thought that was kind of weird because I understand what they're saying, but it's like totally illogical. But I understand what you're saying. Like,
yeah, Jessel was like so shocked about it. Like she was just completely floored.
Yeah, I have a friend here where I live who is like French, or at least I thought she was French. Like she's lived in France almost her whole life, and her name's Chloe. And then I just found out like this past week that she was born in Hamilton, Ontario. She moved away when she was like 3 years old. But I found out that her name is Chloe, not Chloe. Chloe. And now that I know her that she's actually a Chloe and not a Chloe, I cannot look at her the same way. It just changed everything.
That's amazing. I thought you were going to say like Red Deer or like Fort McMurray or something like that, but Hamilton is like Hamilton is
close. Like, for me, that's like very like intensely Anglophone Canadian city. Just I guess because it's like they call themselves the Pittsburgh of Canada. Yeah. which is amazing because like who even likes Pittsburgh? Like it's just such a weird flex. So I guess that's for me why it's like such a it's such like an intensely Anglo-Canadian city that it's just mind-breaking to me that like a French person would come from Hamilton and be named Chloe. So I don't know. I just got me thinking about like how like a name is absolutely nothing at all. Like it's just a straight up label, but your mind makes all these associations that you can't help but see somebody from a different angle when you find out their name's different.
Well, I was surprised to hear her name was Judith. I had no idea.
Judith is a kind of, I mean, I'll say it. It's a terrible name. Like it's an awful name.
It doesn't have the same ring.
She doesn't give off a Judith vibe. At least, like I don't know. There's some badass Judith, like Judge Judy. She's that's.
Are all Judys Judiths?
Yes.
I have no clue.
Okay. I'll defer to your expertise.
What else would be a Judy?
I mean, it could just be Judy on your birth certificate. No.
Yeah, I guess it could.
Or it could be Jude, maybe.
Okay, we won't have another segment of Craig looks up information on the internet this episode because I don't think that will.
That's my favorite part.
But I'm not done talking about this last final scene. I feel like it was so well put together. I really loved the montage that we got where they're like also focus on putting together these wreaths, and you've got like
Yeah.
a Brynn with a candy cane hanging out of her mouth, like a farmer with straw, or like I don't know, like James Dean has a cigarette hanging out of his mouth in Rebel Without a Cause. I thought it was amazing.
I really liked that Brynn also refused to, like, when Jenna was coming in with like all the bags, she did not get up to help like at all. She was just like, I'm gonna have you do that and stay here.
Yeah. I think she kind of like stands up and hovers, and then it's like, yeah, that's good.
I'm good.
Speaking of those gifts, like I thought that this like Jessel's reaction to this gift and how she went on her like thank you tour, I thought that was like a really good move on her part. Like it just showed a lot of growth in terms of how she is developing her friendships and how she's playing the housewife game. And I feel like Sai was being way ruder about the gift this time around.
Oh, yeah.
And Jessel was, you know, in the Hamptons.
Yeah, Jessel was being careful. She was afraid that that Jenna would start taking the decor and start making her wear it as lingerie.
Totally. Dylan, do you have any other highlights from New York?
No, that about covers it, I think. But it was a fun episode. I did enjoy it for sure.
Yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about Gideon and get what your reaction to Brynn and Gideon was.
What a name! This motherfucker's named after a Bible in a hotel. This is, you know what? Usually I hate British people, but I thought Gideon was kind of charming. I kind of liked him actually.
I loved Gideon.
I thought he was actually kind of a likable guy. I did like his weird British jokes where, you know, Brynn makes some jokes about like the price of eggs going up, and he's like, indeed, and pints of milk too. It's just like very strikes me as very British humor. I did actually find him kind of charming, and it made it added more to Brynn's characterization too. Having like one of the few things we know about her being that she's like walked out of multiple engagements doesn't sound like very interesting characterization on its own, but it's actually like helping us understand her a little bit more, I think. And so I do appreciate that. And I do like the way that she talks about, like, you know, she clearly has a lot of fondness for this guy, but like just felt like she just couldn't cross that bridge for like reasons that maybe even she doesn't quite understand. And that's feels kind of human and relatable too. So I kind of enjoy this subplot for that.
Yeah, I thought that sort of like inability to attach herself that we have seen her mention, at least in the context of being in multiple engagements that she hasn't followed through with. When she talks about her childhood and how her relationship with her parents, who have been very detached and like abandoned her, like you kind of see a lot more of her characteristics and how she's even said in a confessional, like, you know, if I'm flirty and fun and cute enough, then maybe I'll be safe here. And that's kind of like a core motivation to how she seems to operate. And then to get this scene that we got with Gideon, I thought it was so compelling because I felt like she was so disarmed around him. It was like a new Brynn that we saw. I just thought they had like such a really dynamic chemistry, and I watch a ton of Hallmark movies, so I know about chemistry. But really, I did. I don't know. Maybe it's just like he is just obviously very charming on screen. He's got like total Hugh Grant vibes, and and maybe it's also the cars, like those really hot cars being in the room, also adding to the heat level in that scene. But I just really appreciated this scene a lot. It was one of the standouts from this episode.
I mean, it takes guts to also propose to someone that you're broken up with. So I give him props for that. I was like,
oh yeah, that's such a ballsy move.
Right.
When she's like clearly dating somebody else, right?
Yeah, I know. I love when she said the worst thing you have to do is call your boyfriend and tell them you're engaged to someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It was a successful proposal. It was not like right. Oh, this is this story of this creep that I dated that got so attached they proposed to me when I was dating someone else. It was like, no, she actually said yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Let's move into Real Housewives of Orange County. Lyndsay, what were your thoughts on this one?
So, like I said, I've only seen half of the first season of Orange County. So, coming into this, things that stood out, I know a little bit about each like person just from like recapping things in the podcast land, but just kind of takeaways. I really like Emily. Um, the there were two scenes that I really liked. One, the very end, where Shannon is like, "What do you have that's fat free here?" And then the waitress recommended a salad, and she got a burger, and I was like,
Yeah.
I feel that in my heart. And she was like, "But no bread." And then Emily was like, "I'm gonna get a loaf of bread." And so I was like, "That's like all I needed." And then the FaceTime that Shannon and Emily had that got heated, and then like Emily was trying to like end it and like couldn't end it. I like, again, not having watched any of this season, I was like, oh, I really enjoy this. And then just yeah, I think those are my two favorite scenes. Um, I don't, and maybe I was just confused because this like me coming into this episode, but I am very confused about Shannon and John's relationship. Like if there's this huge scandalous secret, or if it's just like, as she says, relationship problems that are normal, but the other girls make it sound like it's not normal. So that was all confusing to me. I don't know if that's been talked about like through this whole season, but I was just like, um, it was just interesting that they didn't go to her party because of all that. So I wasn't sure if I was just lost in all of that.
Yeah, I feel like, what this secret is that Shannon is hiding about her and John. I feel like it is about John's kid not liking Shannon.
Yeah, she
Like
said, yeah.
that was yeah, that was the part that she seemed the most sensitive about, and also some of the rumors that have kind of circulated around her this season have involved her not wanting to or not spending the night over at John's, and them not moving in together. And I feel like all of that could be a symptom of her kid not liking her. And so yeah, that's my guess as to what it is. But you're right, in this episode it's really hard to gather what is actually going on, because I think that John and Shannon to a degree are really trying to rewrite the narrative in this episode. It seems like they're really trying to be like, oh yeah, it's like just normal relationship things, and like throwing out other examples. And as Gina said about how the information that Shannon brought up about her, but
Right.
setting something else on fire in order to get people to look at that and not look over there. I think she definitely did that with Gina, but she was also doing that with whatever else she could set on fire.
Yeah, I get that vibe from them that they all are just, they all dig up stuff about each other and just want to, like, I guess kind of all the housewives do that. But just, I listened to Tamra a little bit on the podcast that she does with Teddy Mellencamp, and I'm just like, Tamra, I don't get any vibe that I could like trust you like at all. And it's funny because she was barely in this episode. I feel like we only saw her at the party scene. Um, and I did laugh when she was like, she made some kind of comment about like them not coming, but then she was like, but if this would have happened to me, I probably wouldn't have came either. Like she
Yeah.
that but yeah, I definitely don't get I do not trust Tamra. And then Gina, I don't she didn't really stand out to me. The ending part with her and Jen's conversation about like the DUI, and Shannon seems to bring that up a lot. And then how she brought up her kids, Shannon brought up her kids maybe being taken away if they hadn't intervened. I was like, whew, like I understand Gina getting upset about that. Again, I don't know much about like the DUI in that situation since I haven't watched Orange County. But and then Jen, she's new this year, right? Is this her first season?
Yeah, this is their first season.
Okay. So yeah, I didn't she I think was in like a few scenes as well. So I know there's a lot of drama with like her and Ryan and like her ex-husband. I've been like keeping up a little bit on that, but I really just I really enjoyed every scene with Emily in it. I really like her. And then Shannon kind of cracked me up this episode too.
Yeah, I think Shannon is just kind of naturally funny, and Emily is really funny too. But there's something very just comedic about the way that Shannon navigates situations, and it's so messy and like,
Yes.
but like she's so like physical in the way that she like reacts to things, and just there's a reason that she's been on the show for so long, and she's constantly giving the camera something, and you know, even if it's not her intention to.
Yeah,
she's just a naturally hilarious person. Just her gestures, her delivery is just always really funny.
Yeah, her facial expressions are wild. I enjoyed her.
I do think it was a really good episode for Emily too. I thought starting out with like her like repping the Innocence Project, which is like an actual good cause, and it's not like you know, they have like causes they support, but it's cool to have like an actual like very effective cause, and it's not one that's like, oh, we're raising money for
homeless, not toothless.
Yeah. People who can't afford silk bows to tie in their show pony's hair or something. Just like and I thought her like apology to Shannon was really good. Like it was like, we've seen Tamra deliver some like really over the top apologies this season, but Emily's was like felt like very like sincere but also complete, as like and I buy it totally. Like I really thought that Emily was like angry at Shannon because she was looking out for Shannon, because she wanted to like shake Shannon by the shoulders and make her realize that you're calling me and saying your relationship sucks when you're drunk, so stop defending it. Like, realize that this is your truth. Like I thought it really came from a place of actually caring for Shannon rather than from a place of like, you know, having her own strategies or having a, you know, trying to play her own agenda. It seemed like she genuinely was like, she was genuinely upset with Shannon because she cares for Shannon, because she wants the best for her and thinks that Shannon is not out for the best, that she's settling basically, and is trying to cover up for a relationship that she's not actually happy with. So I actually thought that Emily apologized well and came off as sincere. And I thought she came off looking good this episode.
What other highlights did you have from Orange County,
Dylan? That Jen has a daughter named Everly with like EIGH at the end. I think that's so cool when white women name their kids stuff like that. I want to name my kids. I don't have kids. If I did, I think I want to like, it seems like a really fun game, like a puzzle to just like come up with like common names, but then just try to like misspell them in like the most convoluted way possible. That seems really fun. I feel like I could get really into that. And then her sons have names like, I don't know, like Dawson and Harrington, and like, you know, those names that sound like the names of towns in Alaska or something. Also very cool. So that's all I wrote about Jen. So she has cool names for her kids. And then half of my notes is just like Señor Noodles and like huge letters. There's a guy named Señor Noodles, and he's like, he's hilarious.
I liked him.
They hired Señor Noodles to do this party and wear little tiny sombreros. This is a hilarious party. It's really funny. He's just there, you know, just grilling meat, telling the worst jokes ever. I do choose to believe the worst about John, because he actually laughed when Señor Noodles held up a steak and said, "The stakes are high."
He loved that so much.
Yeah.
Very sus.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, terrible person for sure. But Señor Noodles is awesome. I'd book him for my party. And of course, Tamra will like take the tequila gun as soon as she sees it and just start going to town, just try to take somebody's eye out with tequila. Great.
I'm surprised she wasn't strapped already. And she was going to put someone's eye out. And we saw on Vanderpump Rules this season how that went for James when he got the water that he thought was tequila in his eye.
Yeah. I do feel for Shannon a lot going through this, because I think she's had some vulnerable moments this season. It was, I mentioned before that one of my favorite moments was when she was like kind of tearfully sticking up for Jen's relationship. from the perspective that like her relationship's going to end badly, but let her figure that out for herself, because like she just wants her to have like a temporarily loving relationship, even if it ends terribly. I feel for like Shannon's perspective and how like she wants to defend her relationship, which doesn't sound like it's going very good, but she just wants to at least have this, what she has now, and kind of defend it. I do think she's being unreasonable to attack people who like mostly just seem to want the best for her, except for Heather. I don't think Heather wants the best for her.
Yeah.
But Emily and to some extent Gina, I think, do want the best for her. So I think that she's being unreasonable to throw them under the bus for that. And Tamra's just playing like all sides at once. But Tamra's great for that because she's like totally open about it.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, Lyndsay, like when she doesn't even pretend that she's like a moral actor, like that will like has like principles that are like inflexible. Like she's totally open about the fact that she like just changes whoever side she's on, or like whatever she believes is based on the situation. And that's what I love about her, that she's chaotic and she's like doesn't even pretend to be moral. She just like she just does what she wants to do. Yeah, that's about it. But yeah, mostly I just love that like bizarre fucking party that Shannon organized, which is, it's just such a Shannon party, you know? It's so Shannon to like hire Señor Noodles. Like, where did you find Señor Noodles, Shannon?
And was it truly just because it was National Taco Day? Like that's what the party was for? I'm so like I'm all for throwing parties, but I was like it just seemed a lot for that. But I do stand Señor Noodles. We I hope we see more of him this season.
Mm-hmm. I was hoping to actually
what National Taco Day is so I can mark it on my calendar, because I'm totally down for National Taco Day.
Totally. I was literally going to show up to this recording wearing a tiny sombrero because I had a tiny sombrero that came with like a bottle of hot sauce. But then I remembered that I gave it to my friend who has a Chihuahua, and like, because I wanted them to wear the Chihuahua, wear a little tiny sombrero. Yeah. They never sent me a photo. I think they probably just threw it in the garbage. So I should probably I choose to believe the worst.
Yeah, I thought this was a fantastic episode too. I think it was Emily that mentioned something about like how Shannon tells people that John loves the limelight, and that's a lot of the reason that he's with her. I totally get that vibe. We have seen like a history of very thirsty husbands on Orange County that like people that have been mostly with Vicky, like Brooks was like that and Steve was like that, and I get the exact same vibe from John. So I like that was called out on screen. But I thought that this had some really funny moments in the edit. There was a scene where I've been really hard on Jen this season because I think she's had a really bad season as a newbie housewife, but there's a very sweet scene with her and her adopted son where she's talking about like his birth mom, and then she says something like he wishes he had skin like his siblings, which is a very like he's reaching out by saying something like this, and her reaction is, I would kill to have skin like that. It's like such a tone deaf and like just went like right over her head. Like he's looking for a sense of belonging. She's like, man, I wish I could get a tan like that. Just really, you're missing the point here, Jen. There's like,
what he's actually trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. Use your brain. A Spirit Halloween's going to open up there. But there was another great scene where we saw the Innocence Project and like doing like such valuable work, and we got like Gina and Emily talking about how like it really puts all your problems into perspective when you meet these people, and we get all these personal testimonials. And then immediately it cuts to Shannon being like, 3 couples aren't coming to my taco party. Just like so worked up about the like smallest thing, and I just really love the juxtaposition of those two scenes. It was amazing. So we heard in this episode that Heather sold her mansion for $55 million, which is a substantial price tag. I want to get your guys' thoughts though on the reason for moving into the LA apartment. Does it really make sense for her to move to LA just like in case she gets a last minute call to be
Mm.
on some sort of acting gig?
It doesn't seem to track with me, but I mean, what the fuck do I know about the acting industry in LA? But it does seem like a little suspicious that she'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna move out here in case my career revitalizes somehow. Like, you think you do that after you get the role, not like in anticipation of a role maybe coming at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, that seems a little confusing to me. When I actually I like rewinded it because I was like, did they just say 55 million? I was like, that is absurd. I've never heard that price before for house selling. I was like, maybe they said five. No, it was 55. But yeah, I'm sure there's probably other reasons. And then she even later said like their house, they signed an NDA and like can't disclose some things. I kind of got lost in that. So like I don't understand, like, so their place has sold but hasn't sold, and they're buying this apartment and they signed these papers, but they're not moving yet. So I was like, I have some
Yeah,
questions.
it felt to me like she was trying to imply that someone famous had bought her mansion or
Yeah.
something like that. I don't know if I buy it. Like, I don't feel like anyone super famous is moving out to Orange County. I don't know a lot about the landscape in greater LA. So, but it seems like Orange County is pretty removed from where anyone that is actively famous would want to be. I could see, people that kind of used to be famous wanting to maybe move to Orange County. But again, I really don't know. I live in Winnipeg, so that's about as far from LA, both physically and culturally, as you can get. Yeah, but I think that about covers it for me. How about you guys? Any final thoughts?
I just want somebody to love me as much as Gina loves denim. Why is that all her outfits? Is that how she's like trying to like project that she's like from New York? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
cool though. I mean, she wears it well.
yeah, at least she's got like a little bit of an identity in what she's going for. I think that's more than can be said about like a lot of the women in Orange County who just like default to athleisure on this show. So
yeah, for sure. Did you see the new Wes Anderson movie, by the way?
no, I didn't.
There's like a cowboy guy named Montana, and he just wears like head to toe denim all the time. And I don't know. He reminded me of Gina.
I did enjoy how Shannon was very upset with Emily, the Jekyll and Hyde comment. She very much focused on that. And I thought that was like, she seemed very upset about that. But like you said, Dylan, I did actually think Emily seems to really care for Shannon as a friend. And so when she said like, I'm sorry, and you could tell she was like, I'm sorry and I want to move on. Whereas I felt like when Heather and Shannon talked, there doesn't seem to be much moving on from them.
Yeah.
Especially they showed a scene and I was like, I need to go back and watch that season. It was Heather saying something to Shannon about don't you ever, like, it was very intense. I wish I remembered exactly what she said, but something about like, if you ever bring this up or say this, I will do this. And I was like, ooh, because Shannon mentioned something about her threatening her. And I was like, what was all of this about? So I was like, I need to watch that season.
Yeah, I think that was a clip from, well, they showed two clips. One was from last season when Heather made her return and Shannon came back. And I think that that's the clip that you were talking about where she was like, if you ever say something about my family, I'll
Yes.
like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And yeah, Shannon was just like really messy at the beginning of she's always messy. She was just like being Shannon. And so, yeah, it's last season was all right. Orange County, I wouldn't say it's like the best Orange County season, but I thought it had its moment. I really liked the two newbies from last season that didn't get a return. I was disappointed that we got new Jen in place of old Dr. Jen and Noella. I thought they were two good additions, but they were not very well liked by the fan base. So
Okay.
I think that maybe had something to do with them not coming back. But yeah, it was kind of a middling season. Last season, the peak of last season was the very last scene that we got where there's this they're like lip syncing to this song that was written called like I Do Whatever I Want, and it's just so brutal. They did this recording of it and they're all like pretending to play instruments, and it's amazing. It's an earworm, but it's like also very terrible. I definitely recommend at least watching that part.
I am very curious now. I will go check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Lyndsay. Do you want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. You can find me on Instagram. My handle name is VanderPodRecaps. And then if you ever see on Reddit, the name Additional War and then some random numbers, that's also me. I didn't make up that name. I know I sound like I always say I sound like a old white Republican man with that name, but that is not me. So, but yeah, you can find me on there.
Awesome. Dylan, want to let everyone know where they can find you?
Yeah, I'll keep pumping the tires of my new limited podcast, which is out right now, called The Devil You Don't. It's a 4-part limited series about the New Jersey cryptid known as the Jersey Devil, and also the creation of the modern world. We've got the first 2 parts out right now. Part 1, a trumpet sounded out of the wilderness. We go through some like weird old text from the 1600s. Part 2 is called A Star-Bespangled Pond and Some Silent Recess, and it's mostly about the Pine Barrens of New Jersey in the 1800s. And so on Friday, the 3rd part will be coming out, where we'll be talking about a very delightful week in 1909 filled with cryptid sightings. And then we'll transition into a very not delightful story about the history of American eugenics. So look forward to that fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I listened to episode 2 and it's fantastic. I highly recommend checking it out if you're even remotely interested in history, American history, or cryptids. Just fantastic storytelling by you, Dylan. And
thank you.
Yeah, I love it. I've been recommending it to everyone. So
what's it called again?
It's called The Devil You Don't.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Awesome. Well, that's been Bravo Outsider for this week. You can find us online, bravooutsider.com, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube at Bravo Outsider. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, wherever you're watching or listening to this right now. We'll be there. Check out the next episode. Leave us a rating, review, like, and subscribe. It helps us out a ton. Until next week, keep on wifing.